There's an incredible teaching from the Bala Sulam, Zchus Yagan Aleinu, when it comes to Yisachar. That Yisachar, the pasuk tells us, V'yar menucha ki tov. He saw that calmness and comfort and ease was a good thing. And the pasuk ends with V'yat sichmo lispo. And because he saw that comfort and ease was a good thing, so he girded his shoulders to bear the burden. So the Bala Sulam asks a question, and it's a question that he asked the Chazon Ish as well. The question is, if Yisachar saw that calmness is a good thing, that menucha, that comfort in this world, that relief in this world is the goal, then why did he prepare himself? Why does he get himself ready to bear the burden? And the answer that the Baal Sulam gives is as follows. He says that a Jew who comes into this world, an individual who comes into this world, we have to be makar of something to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to be moser nefesh. We have to give ourselves over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the thing that we give ourselves over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with is the thing that we love the most, the choicest of human experience, the thing that we're yearning for, the thing that we're searching for at the core of all experience, menucha, comfort, calmness, ease, the ability to smoothly move throughout life without hitting the pockets of resistance that seem to be abound in every which way that we turn. That the menuchas emes sha'atar otzeba, that calmness, that tam of Gan Eden, that ability to walk slowly without destination, yet feel that in this moment I am exactly where I need to be. That seems to be the ideal position. And because that's the ideal position in the human mind, that's specifically what we give over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're moser nefesh, like at the Akedah, the thing that we love most. And we say, Hashem, yes, we want menucha. Yes, we want the calmness and the comfort of what it means to smoothly move throughout reality, feeling and fully aware that we're exactly where we need to be. And we're willing to give that over to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to take upon ourselves to be sovel in this world, to be sovel, to live with amelis, to live with yigia, to live with the awareness of what it means to be a human being. And very often to be a human being means to not be in a state of menucha, to be in the opposite of menucha. Rav Tzadok HaKohen Melublin points out that this world is the hepech of menucha. Concentration, attention, intention, all of those things demand a prerequisite, a baseline of menucha in order to enter into them. Only a mind that has an aspect of menucha is a mind that is capable of paying attention in the present moment non-judgmentally. But this world is the opposite of menucha, and therefore this world is very often the opposite of kavanah, of intentionality. We find statements amongst Chazal where they say, Ana meyoma la kavanis, I have never had kavanah in my life. And Zakter Tzadok, the reason for that is because there's no menucha to be found, which is why we find in certain circumstances, Rav Tzadok says that when a neshama goes back above, when a neshama returns itself back to its creator, into a place of chayu elam haba, at that point it's referred to as nayach nafshe, that there's a comfort, there's a calmness that comes. The tzaddikim of Ishbitz and Radzin understood this fundamentally. We understand, as we've spoken about in the past from Chazal, there was an argument for a number of years. Noyach loy la'adam shanivra o shaloi nivra. What's more pleasant? Where is there more menucha? In a person being created or in a person not being created? And Chazal, in a seemingly pessimistic perspective, they say as follows. They say, Nimnu v'gamru, it's been decided after a number of years arguing that noyach loy la'adam shaloi nivra yoter mishanivra. It's more pleasant for a person to have not been created than to have been created. And suddenly we see face to face, Chazal are in full awareness of the recognition that this world is the opposite of menucha. But comes along the tzaddikim of Ishbitz and Radzin, come along the tzaddikim in the spirit of the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, and they say as follows. They say, let's pay very close attention to the statement of Chazal. The statement of Chazal does not say whether it would have been better, mutav lo la'adam shenivra yoter mishenivra, would have been better for a person to have not been created than to have been created, God forbid. That would be a statement as to the value of being a human being. And the value of being a human being is the highest of values. The affirmation of what it means to be a neshama and a guf in this world, in this space, in the dir b'tachtoim, and in the opportunities that are abound to each and every individual at every moment of their experience, to be makdish shem shamayim, to be mahapech, to transform physicality into spirituality, to reveal the highest heights of light in the lowest depths of darkness. That opportunity is a profound one that no other aspect of existence has the ability to engage in. So it is certainly better to have been created. The net gain, the sum total of what it means to be a human being down here is to prove the true depths of the infinitude of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that even down here, Hashem, we're revealing you. Even down here in the place where it appears to be the opposite of you. So it's certainly better to have been created. It's certainly the opportunity of a lifetime, so to speak. What Chazal are pointing out is that it would have been more comfortable not to have been created. Because this world is the opposite of Noach. This world is the opposite very often of that comfort that we desire. And when we're able to be makar of that comfort, that ideal of menucha, of things being easy, then we're ready to be sovel, then we're ready to be makabel upon ourselves, to have the patience and the wherewithal and the strength to carry the burden of what it means sometimes to be a human being. But it doesn't have to be so heavy and it doesn't have to be so harsh. Because as Chazal taught us very clearly, fine, we accept the fact that a person has to experience imenucha in this world. Okay, part of being a human being in this world is not experiencing that calmness. But to what degree? What is the amount of difficulty or struggle that a person has to go through in order to be considered someone who understands the secret of that this world is not easy and it's specifically supposed to be that way? So Chazal have an incredible matbeya lashon. They have an incredible turn of phrase where the question they ask themselves is as follows: Ad heichan tachlis hayisurim? What is the smallest, most irreducible amount or measure of difficulty or suffering that is necessary for an individual to experience so that they can authentically consider themselves as one who suffers in this world? What is the bare minimum? What is the token of admission to being a human being in this world? If Yisurin and the absence of Menucha is the ticket, then what do I have to pay for it? And Chazal say the tachlis of Yisurin, the irreducible point of Yisurin, is really any time a human being wants something to go away that they want it to go, and it doesn't go that way. For a Jewish individual, for a neshama, to recognize that I want HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give me what I want, and the moment I realize I'm not getting that, if we were to truly understand the power of the neshama shenasata bi tahirahi, a neshama that comes from the Tahiru Ilah, the neshama that is rooted in the very, very crown jewel of existence, Yisrael asher b'cha aspire, Nishmas Yisrael, that is the origination and the point of desire that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for the sake of creating the world. If we were to understand where we came from, as Rabbi Nachman says, me'ayin hein lekuchim, if we knew where we came from, then any time that there was any deviation away from what we wanted, which would be the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that would be enough for a person to tear the heavens asunder and demand the arrival of redemption, to demand the arrival of Mashiach, because there's no greater bizayon, there's no greater degradation than a Yid's Ratzon not being Mekuyim. Because if we understood the power of the Ratzon of a Yid, if we understood the power of what it means to be who we are, then we would see the Nisim v'niflos that would be taking place every moment. So in order to be considered somebody who suffers in this world, one need not come to a place further than recognizing that any time my will, which is inherently aligned with the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because neshama shenasata bi tahirahi, and Nishmas Yisrael is the root of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's desire, so to speak, that would be enough to realize the absence of Menucha. So any time, as Rabbi Nassim points out, a person feels uncomfortable, anytime I encounter a moment, Shalom Noachli, where there is something that is creating a discomfort, a disorientation, a certain claustrophobia of the spirit where my desire, my feelings, my words are not being met, the attention that I seek is not there, the comfort that I'm looking for is not arriving, the connection that I desire is not quite here yet, the things that I thought I would have, even when I have them, I feel that I don't have them. All of those moments, the spiritual coldness, the distance in tefillah, the lack of harmony in a home, whatever moment the person encounters themselves in, if I can close my eyes for but a moment and tune into the fact that this is the payoff for revealing Kvod Shemayim, every moment that a person struggles is another opportunity for them to dig down deeper and to say, Hashem, you're here as well. I am right now experiencing the absence of Menucha that I rightfully deserve and that I will experience when I draw Gan Eden into my life. And in the absence of Menucha, I'm being Makadeh Shem Shemayim, and I'm creating a dwelling below for you. I'm being Metzamsing myself. I'm creating a Chalal Hapanu for you, Ribono Shel Olam, for there to be an influx of divine light that comes about in the next moment that will reveal to me that the place of Menucha, the place of discomfort, is very often the very place I'm meant to serve you, Ribono Shel Olam. And this is the secret of Tchias HaMesim. The tzaddikim ask, what's the tachlis of Tchias HaMesim beyond Olam Haba? We're in a Zman of Tchias HaMesim. We're always in a Zman of Tchias HaMesim. As Leshem Shoy V'Chalama points out, Tchias HaMesim is not something that happens in the future. It's a process that is taking place on every fabric and every fiber of being at every moment, in each and every vital point of existence, is perpetually renewing itself and moving out of disintegration into a state of integration, from shattering into building, from chaos into order, from death into life. And we can't see the final conclusion or the culmination until the coming of Mashiach, may it be soon, may it be immediate. We have to believe deeply that Mechayim Mesim Ata Rav Loishia, Mechayim Mesim Ata, as the Meforshim point out, is a language of a present activity. It is already always taking place. Things are perpetually renewing themselves. But what is the purpose of the eventual Tchias HaMesim, where the body itself is rejuvenated, where the confinement in this world, where the site of Imenucha, the body, which is the measurement of the self, contained and constrained within the discomfort of this world? Why is it that has to return back onto the scene? Because the tachlis of the revealing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light is to show that even the body is the site of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even the very thing that stood in the way in this world, the very thing that caused me to say, Noyach lo Adam shaloi nivra yoter mishanivra, to be a ben Adam, to be in a guf, that very concealment, that very busha, that very chisaron, that very struggle with all of the needs and the human experiences that we have, that is the kisei hakavod, that is the chariot, that is the kursaya deshriven, that is the chair of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that is where I crown HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The body keeps score. The body is the ikr. The body is the revelation that even in the lowest possible place where there was an absolute foreclosure on the lights of spirituality, that is the very site of spirituality. And to be a ben Adam, to live with a body, to be a balmum, is the very tachlis of what it means to serve Hashem. Because there's a secret in Tchias HaMesim, and the Ishbitzer Tzadikim point this out, and Rabbi Nachman points this out, that la'aseh lava, when the bodies are rejuvenated, b'mumim yivra'u, they're going to be rejuvenated with their blemishes. And here the blemish is the very irreducible fact of being a human being, of being a bal chisaron, of not finding menucha in this place, of not being able to be comfortable in an emuchus emes sha'atar otzeba, to lean back and say, Rabbeinu Shalom, das is das, this is this, and I am here with you. And any distance or deviation away from living olam haba in olam haza, in the aspect of olamecha tir b'chayecha, is an aspect of imenucha, of difficulty, of suffering, of yisurin, of an almad shikra, of a shvira. And those mumim, that place of the engagement with the earth, that blemish, we would think, if that was the opposite of spirituality, that when the body is rejuvenated, it should get rid of all of those deficiencies. But Chazal tell us that we're going to be recreated with our deficiencies dafka. Why? Because otherwise we wouldn't be able to recognize ourselves. We wouldn't know that we were us. The only thing that allows us to keep our identity now and our identity in the future and the identity of the difficulty and the identity of the breakthrough is to recognize the shared chord of the struggle, the process, the moving through the resistance, the movement through resistance, the movement that I experience in this world, the deficiencies, those nakudos of chisaron, where it's hard for me to serve Hashem, where it's difficult for me to be kind, where it's difficult for me to hold my anger within. It's those very places that are going to become the very reminders of who we are for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what we were soivel, what we went through. And every moment that we encounter one of those pockets of difficulty and refine them, we come to a new place of revealing Hashem in a new way. The avoid of Tchias HaMesim, which is happening at every moment in our lives, is taking those moments that felt like they were dead, those mumim moments. Mum is the gematria of 86, it's the gematria of Elokim, it represents teva and constriction. It's taking each and every one of those movements and recognizing Hashem Elokeichem emes, that is also the site of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That mum was the place of revealing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mum, mem vav mem, is the last permutation of the 72-letter name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is comprised of 72 three-letter packages. Each and every 3 letters represent a different expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. But the last one, the culmination of it, is mem vav men, representing the fact, as the tzaddikim tell us, that the mum, the encounter with the difficulty, is the very place that I'm going to come to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because if I were to be recreated without my mumim, then what it would be is an aspect, what the Zohar Kadosh refers to as ma de lo have have, that which was not has come to be. who I am in the future, who I am from a perspective of redemption, is separate and apart from who I was in a moment of exile. Mad lo have, that which was not clear during exile, have, is what's going to be revealed in the future. But the tzaddikim point out that that's the opposite of what real Tchias HaMesim is. Tchias HaMesim, Geula, is mad have, that which was is now. The mum remains, but the mum is revealed to be the aspect of the self which will always be imperfect, not because we're not good enough, but because that's the very fabric and function of what it means to be a human being. B'mumim yivro, will be recreated with the blemishes, with the difficulty, with the doubts, with the pockets of hopelessness, because each and every one of those moments will be transformed into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, into the Kisei HaKavod. There's a teaching on the pasuk, Ayin ba'ayin yiru b'hashuv Hashem Tzion. The Rebbe Ravitchemeyer Morgenstern Shlita uses, that's the pasuk of redemption, ayin ba'ayin, to end every drasha, ayin ba'ayin, that we should see with both eyes. We should see with the eye of clarity, and we should see with the eye of disclarity. We should see with the eye that sees separation, and we should see with the eye that sees fullness. We should see with an eye of chesed and rachamim, and we should see with the eyes of din. We should see with the eyes of Hashem, and we should see the eyes of Elohim. Both eyes, both things which represent the constriction and the openness in this world, the difficulty and the ease, both should be revealed to be serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Both should be revealed to be moments of connectivity. The Meshiloach on this pasuk asks a question. Hine kol tzofayach yirum b'kol. The voice of your watchman will announce in voice. Ayin ba'ayin yiru b'shuv Hashem Tzion. But the Meshiloach wants to understand, why is it called Sofayach? Why is it the doubled language of your watchman? Why not a singular watchman? What's the doubled watchman here? Why is it in the plural? And the Meshiloach describes a foundational and fundamental belief in what's going to happen in redemption, and something that we know, if we're Zocha to good friends, can happen in this moment as well. That each and every person in exile, each and every person in Gullus is going to be soivel what their soulvil. They're going to struggle with their mumim, with their blemishes, with their deficiencies, their struggle, their difficulty, their low self-esteem, the doubts, the self-doubt, whatever it is, each person is going to be plagued by it. It's not a question of if, it's a question of what is the volume of it going to be, and how is Hashem going to bless me to carry it. But we have to carry something in this world. We have to carry. But the question is, the person is going to feel that when redemption arrives, collective, personal, each day's redemption, each moment's redemption, when redemption arrives, we're not going to believe it, because we're going to say to ourselves, how could it be that I was able to carry such a burden? How could it be that I was able to go through what I went through and come to a place of revelation? And each person is going to feel that their revelation is the biggest nace in the world, because what I went through, nobody could possibly understand. You won't believe the things I've seen. You won't believe the process it took for me to get here. You won't believe the amount of zez that I had to go through and wait for. And a person is going to walk out just eagerly anticipating to share this miracle story, this Sipurei Maisios, with their neighbor, with their friend who could not possibly understand. And the moment I encounter the other, says the Meshiloach, as I'm getting ready to tell my story, they're going to say to me, Achi, you have no idea what I went through. You're not going to believe the nace that happened to me. You're not going to believe how far I was. You're not going to believe how heavy it felt. And at that moment, each and every person is going to realize that the miracle that happened to me happened to them as well. And each and every person experienced that mum in their own way. And each and every person is going to experience Tchias HaMesim in their own way. And we have to demand that it happen now. We have to demand that the Tchias HaMesim process begin already. And the way that we do that is by looking at the mumim in our lives, looking at the deficiencies in our lives, and seeing them through eyes of Ach Toiv V'Chesed Yidufuni Kol Yimei Chayei. Ach Toiv V'Chesed, it's only good, Rebbeinu Shleilim. Every ounce, every difficulty, every process, Rebbeinu Shleilim, it's all good. We find you here, we find you there, we find you everywhere. And by being makdim, refuah lamaka, by learning how to recognize that each and every one of us is going through what we go through, and each and every one of us is going to reveal through our own symptom the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Dir B'Tachtonim. Each and every one of our own minds, as the Baal Tanya says, is the Dir B'Tachtonim mamish. And for us to be able to draw that light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu down into that place, and to recognize that each and every other person that we encounter or that we don't encounter, whether we know it or we don't, whether we understand or we don't, is going through the very same process. At that point, we could be Mo'ira Rachamim Rabim, we can have compassion on one another, we can have compassion on ourselves, and by by having compassion on one another and having compassion on ourselves and having compassion on the Shekhinah HaKadosha, which is within each and every one of us, then we're ma'ir the Rachamim Rabim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be makriv the case, to bring Geula and to help us understand that the mumim that we have, the difficulties that we have, are just the expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our lives, ad kedekach, that we come to a place where it's HaKoil is Toiva Meitiv, and we should be zoicha that the mumim are transformed into mumim of Simcha, into mumim of Geula, into mumim of Yeshua, be'ezras Hashem.